Hello there and welcome to the second of a series of videos on functions. Here we're going to be looking at problem solving with functions. So just to recap what we've done last time, pause the video and have a go at these three questions. Okay, so we saw how to do these kinds of questions in the first video. In the first video we saw that when you do f of 6, that means that the x value is going to be changed from x to 6. So it's going to be 6 times 6 minus 5. So we're going to do 6 times 6, which is 36, minus 5, that's 31. When it's f of minus 3 is going to be the value that replaces the number, the letter x. So it's 6 times minus 3, take away 5, that would be minus 18, but then take away another 5, that's minus 23. And then f2, that means put 2 into the f function one time, so we'll put 2 in, that will give us 12 minus 5, that's 7. And then put 7 into the f function again, so we're doing it twice here. We find the answer to the first one, and then we put the answer into the second f function. That would be 42 minus 5, which is 37. So there we are, these are the three answers to these questions. And before we get on to the new content, have a go at this question here. Okay, so some composite function questions. First we put 14 into the g function, so leave the first one f alone. We actually do the function that's closest to the number first. So put 14 into the g function, 14 divided by 2 is 7. And then put 7 into the f function, that will give us 7 minus 3 is 4, the square root of 4 is 2. So the answer here is 2. In part B, we're going to put 52 into the f function, the one closest to the number. 52 minus 3 is 49, square root of 49 is 7. And then we're going to put 7 into the g function, 7 divided by 2, that's 3.5. And then g of 8, so we put 8 into the g function first, the one closest to the number. So it's going to be gf, and then the answer is going to be 8 divided by 2 is 4. Then we put 4 into the f function. 4 minus 3 is 1, square root of 1 is 1. And then we put 1 into the g function, and that will give us 0.5. So there we are, that's a bit of a reminder of the last video that we looked at. Now previously what we saw was that when we had a function, it takes an input value and sends it to an output value. It does some kind of mechanism with it, and then it gives us an output value. And those keywords of input and output are going to be really important for this video. So, where does the input and output lie when we've got a function like this? Well, the input is the number that would go into the function, into the brackets, and the output is basically the answer. So, pause the video and have a go at these two questions here. Alright then, it's definitely worthwhile you having a think about how we answer these questions. So, find the output if the input is 5. Now if the input was 5, that means we need to put 5 into the function. So let's go ahead and do that. F of 5 equals, so we put 5 into x, that's going to be 3 times 5 plus 1, that's 15, add 1, that's 16. Lovely. Moving on to part B now, and B is a little bit different. Find the input if the output is 10. So if the output is 10, then we need to put 10 on the other side of an equals sign. So it's going to be the function 3x plus 1 equals 10. And now we need to work out what x is. X is the input letter. X equals input. So take away 1 from both sides and we get 3x equals 9. And then divide both sides by 3 and we get x equals 3. So the input value would need to be 3 for the output to be 10, and we can test it. 3 times 3 is 9, add 1 is 10. 10 is the output and 3 is the input. So the two different ways of answering this question is if you know what the input is, then you put it into the function, but if you know what the output is, then you set the function equal to 10, just like we did in this question here. So in part A, this was a substitute question, and in part B, we had to solve an equation. So two different ways of answering these two different questions. Okay, so you've seen how to do it then. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Okay, so let's have a go at this one then. Part A, the input is 6, so that means we're going to put 6 into the function. That would be the square root of 6 minus 2. 6 minus 2 is 4, square root of 4 is 2. Moving on to part B now. Find the input if the output is 7. So that means we need to set up the function equals the output of 7. 7 is the output and we want to find the input, which is x. X equals input. So let's rearrange this equation then. First of all, we probably should square both sides to get rid of this big square root that surrounds it. X minus 2 equals 49. And then add on 2 and you get x equals 51. So when the input number is 51, we get an output of 7. So these two are the answers to these questions. Okay, moving on to the next one. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Okay, so in a maths question, it's not going to be phrased like this. It's not going to be phrased, find the input if the output of the input is 10, or find the input if the output is 9. It's going to be phrased a little differently. It's going to be phrased more like this. Find f of 10 and solve f of x equals 9. So it means exactly the same thing, but we're just going to write the questions now like this. If we want to find f of 10, that means substitute 10 in. So f of 10 equals 2 times 10 minus 1. That's going to give us 19. Now part B is a solve question. We need to solve an equation. When it says find, it just means find. We have to solve here. So we're going to set up our function 2x minus 1 to equal 9. What effectively I've done here is I've taken this thing here, but I've replaced the function with what the function actually is, 2x minus 1 in this case. Now let's solve for x to find the input. X equals input. In this case, the output was 9. So let's add 1 to both sides of this equation then, because it's a solve equation, solve question. Add 1, you get 10, and then divide by 2, you get 5. So 5 is the answer to this question. You can imagine it. If you put 5 into the function, you would get 9 as your output value. So 5 is the input for the output of 9. Okay, so now you know what to do in these questions. When it says find, you just put 5 into the function. But when it says solve, you set up an equation with your function equal to the number that you want to find the input for. So the input goes into the function, but the output is on the outside after an equals sign. Okay, so pause the video and have a go at this question now. Okay, so for part A, what does it want you to do for part A? Part A just wants you to input the number 11 into the function. So f of 11 equals the square root of 60 minus 11. 60 minus 11, that's 49, and the square root of 49 is 7. So 7's the output if the input is 11. And part B, we want to solve f of x equals 5. That means we need to find the input number to give us an answer of 5. So what I'll do then is I'll set up the function to equal 5. So now I need to rearrange this equation, so I'll square both sides to start with. So that would be 60 minus x equals 25. When I square a square root, those two things just cancel each other out because they're the opposites of each other. Then I think what I'll do is I'll add on x onto the other side. And then I'll take away 25 to leave me with 35 equals x. So if x was my input number, so 35 was my input number, I'd get an output number of 5. Let's move on to the next question. Pause the video and have a go at this one. Okay, so in part A, we know that 13 is the input number, so f of 13 equals 13 plus 2 divided by 3. 13 plus 2 is 15. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So 5 is the output number. And when it says solve f of x equals 6, that means you need to take your function and set it equal to 6 and find the input. So what we'll do first is we'll times by 3 and then take away 2, so x equals 16. Let's move on to a more difficult question here. Pause the video and have a go at this one. Okay, so we're slowly increasing the difficulty level here. Part A just means put 1 into the function because it says find f of 1. So that's going to be f of 1 equals the square root of 30 plus 2 divided by 2. That's going to be the square root of 16, and the square root of 16 is 4. And in part B it says solve f of x equals 7. That means you need to set up an equation and set it equal to 7 and work out what x is. So we'll do the square root first. Get rid of the square root, that'll make it 49. Then we need to times by 2 to get rid of this divide by 2. So that's going to make it 30 plus 2x equals 98. Then we'll take away 30, so that'll make it 68. And then we'll halve both sides to make it 34. So if we use 34 as the input number, the output number would be 7. So in this part B case, if the input was 34, the output will be 7. And we've worked it out in reverse, that if 7 is your output, 34 is your input. Let's have a go at these two slightly more difficult questions where there's a 2 at the front of them. Pause the video and have a go at this one. Okay, so for part A, we need to put 3 into the function, do the brackets first, and then do the multiply by 2 at the start. So 2f of 3 is going to equal 2 times, put 3 into the function, that would be 12 plus 3, that's 15. And then do the times by 2, which is at the start of the question, which is equal to 30. In this case, what we can do is we can do 2 times the function, which is 4x plus 3, equals 46. And I think the first thing we could do here is halve both sides and get rid of the 2 at the start. So 4x plus 3 equals 23. Then we'll take away 3 from both sides, that'll make it 20, and then we'll divide by 4, which will make it 5. So if the input number was 5, then 2f of x will give you 46. Some more difficult questions here then. Pause the video and have a go at these two. Okay, so when it says find f of 3 plus g of 2, that means we're going to put 3 into the f function and 2 into the g function. So let's go ahead and do that. F of 3, that would be 6. 19 minus 6 is 13. And then add, because that's the symbol in the middle, put 2 in, that would be 8 plus 3, that's 11. So the answer to this question is 24. Part B is going to be a little bit more tricky, because what we have to do here is we have to take the f function, add it to the g function, and set it equal to 34, and then work out what x is. Solve means work out what x is. So the f function was this one here, so that needs to go first. The g function was this one here, and we have to add the two things together. So add 4x plus 3 equals 34. And now we need to do this keyword of solve, which means work out what x is. So let's simplify the left-hand side first. Minus 2x add 4x, that'll make it 2x. So 19 add 3, that'll make it 22. Equals 34. Take away 22 from both sides, and you'll get 12. And then divide by 2, and you'll get 6. So when 6 is the input, and you put 6 into the f function and the g function, and add it together, you will get 34 as your answer. So we're solving problems here. Let's move on to the next one. Pause the video and have a go at this one. Okay, so for part A, we need to find putting 5 in and 4 in and then subtracting the 2. So it's going to be put 5 in, that'll make it 4 times 3 minus 5, which is minus 2. 4 times minus 2 is minus 8. Then we're going to take away, putting 4 in, that'll be 8 minus 7, which is 1. So it'll be minus 8, take away 1, that makes it minus 9. And part B, we're going to do 2 times the f function, so that'll make it, well, not 4 times this, but 8 times this if it's timesing by 2. Take away the g function, and remember to take away all of the g function, and set that equal to 11. So let's expand the brackets then. 8 times 3 is 24, minus 8x. And then remember to expand the brackets with the negative symbol here, minus 2x, and then add 7. The reason we're adding 7 is because it's a minus 7, so when you take away a minus, it's an add. Equals 11. Let's simplify this. It's minus 10x. Add these two numbers together, which make 31, equals 11. We'll add the 10x onto the other side. Take away the 11, we get 20, so x equals 2. So there we are. When x equals 2 and we put it into 2 times f of x and put 2 in, take away 2 substituted into the g function, we'll get 11. And one more before we move on to the worksheet. Pause the video and have a go at this one. Okay, so this question here is a solve question where we need to work out what f of x add g of x is when it equals x. So what is the f function first? That's 2x plus 3. What is the g function? And then we'll add it together. That would be 3x minus 19. And then we need to set it equal to x. So what we've basically done is we've rewritten out this thing here, but where it said f of x, we used f of x, and where it said g of x, we've used g of x, and set it equal to x on the right hand side. And because it says the word solve, that means we need to now work out what x is. So let's simplify the left hand side. 5x minus 16 equals x. Add 16 onto the other side. Take away x, you get 4x equals 16. So x equals 4. And there we are, that's the answer to this question. So when it says solve, it means work out what x is, and then you can just replace f of x and g of x with what their functions are to make your equation. This thing here is really important you do this first to make your equation. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is go to the worksheet in the hyperlink in the description of the video. Download the worksheet and have a go at all of the questions from the worksheet, and we'll then go through them in the next part of the video. So let's have a go at questions 1a and b. So first it says find f of 3, so we'll put 3 into the function. That'll make it 21 minus 2, which is 19. And then it says part B, solve f of x equals 12. So we need to make an equation where 12 is the answer to that, and it's f of x, so we use the f of x function. We'll then add 2 onto the other side and divide by 7, and we get x equals 2. Let's move on to questions 1c and d. Pause the video and have a go at these. Okay, so when it says find f of minus 2, that means put minus 2 into the function. So 7 times minus 2 is minus 14. Take away another 2, that would be minus 16. And when it says solve f of x equals 33, we don't write f of x, we write down that it's 7x minus 2 and set it equal to 33. Add the 2 onto the other side and divide by 7. So we get 5. If we were to put 5 into the function, we would get 33 out again. And you can see that 7 times 5 is 35, take away 2 is 33. So we got the right answer there. Let's move on to question 2. Oh, sorry, question 1e and f. Pause the video and have a go at these two. Okay, so for question E, it's 2 times f of 4. So do it inside the brackets first. Put 4 into the function first, and we will get 7 times 4 is 28. Take away 2 is 26. Then we'll multiply it by the 2 on the outside, so that will make it 52. When it says solve f of x minus 5 equals 49, we need to write down 7x minus 2, take away 5, equals 49. Now it doesn't really matter that I've put the brackets here, so I'll just ignore them. I'll tidy up what I've got on the left hand side. Then I will add 7 onto the other side, and then I will divide by 7 and I will get 8. So there we are, that's answering that slightly more difficult question there of question F, where it says solve. Whenever it says solve, make sure that you've got an answer where it says x equals. Okay, so moving on to question 2 then. Pause the video and have a go at these two. Okay, so when it says find f of 4, you put 4 into the f function, so that's going to be 20 minus 3 times 4, which is 12. 20 minus 12 is 8. And solve g of x equals 0. That means write out the g function, which is x minus 5, and set it equal to 0. So add 5 onto the other side and you get x equals 5. That's a pretty easy one, isn't it? Let's move on to part C and D. Pause the video and have a go at these two. Okay, so when it says find f of 3 and g of 8 and add the two together, that's exactly what you do. Let's put 3 into the function first and you'll get 11. Let's put 8 into this function and you'll get 3, and add the two results together and you get 14. When it says solve f of x plus g of x equals 3, let's write down what the f of x function is. Let's write down what the g of x function is, adding the two things together, and then setting the answer equal to 3. This thing here is equal to this thing here. This thing here is equal to this thing here. We have to add the two things together and set it equal to 3. Now what we have to do is solve. So let's put these two bits together. It would be minus 2x, add 15, equals 3. We'll add the 2x onto the other side. then take away the 3, and then divide by 2, so x equals 6. And let's move on to questions E and F. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Okay, so when it says f of 4 times g of 3, we'll put 4 into the f function, 3 into the g function, and multiply the two things together. So putting 4 in, I'll get 8. Putting 3 in, I'll get minus 2. And 8 times minus 2 is minus 16. In the next part, it's 2f of x minus g of x equals 2. So I need to do 2 times the f function, and then subtract all of the g function. Now let's expand the brackets. 40 minus 6x, and then take away everything in this bracket. So take away the x and take away minus 5. But remember, when you take away minus 5, you actually add 5. So this will be minus 7x, add 45 equals 2. Let's now add the 7x onto the other side. And then let's take away 2 onto the other side and you get 43. Oh, this doesn't look like it's going to end up very nice, does it? 43 divided by 7, I don't think I can do that. Let's use our calculator. 43 divided by 7. And I get an answer of 6.14. X equals 6.14. If you've put an answer of 43 over 7, then that's a good answer to write as well. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So let's move on to question 3a. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Okay, so g of 21, put 21 into the g function and you get 21 divided by 3, which is 7. And then solve 3f of x equals 21, so put 3 and then a bracket. The f function next equals 21. So that's going to be 6x minus 27 equals 21. Take away, so add the 27 onto the other side and you get 48. And then divide by 6 and you get 8. So 8 is the input if this is the equation. Let's move on to questions C and D. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Okay, question C is a composite function question, so you put 12 into the g function first, leave the f1 alone. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then we'll take that answer 4 and put it into the f function. So that's going to be 8 minus 9, which is minus 1. And solve g of x equals 12. So that's going to be x divided by 3 equals 12. Times the other side by 3, and you get 36. And let's move on to E and F. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Okay, for question E, you do the thing inside the bracket first and then we'll multiply by 2 afterwards. So we'll put 8 into the f function first. So we'll leave the 2 there, we'll leave the g there, and now let's put 8 into the f function. So that'll be 16 minus 9, which is 7. Then we'll put 7 into the g function. Now that's not going to be very easy, is it? Let's just write that as 7 over 3. And then we're going to do 2 times 7 over 3, which is going to give you 14 over 3, or in other words, that's going to give you 4.6 recurring. And then for part F, we need to do the f function, add the g function, and set it equal to 3x. So let's write that all out. F function first, add g function second, and then equals 3x. Now this one's quite a difficult one. I think what I'll do first here is I'll times every element by 3. So 2x times 3, that's 6x. Minus 9 times 3, that's minus 27. x divided by 3 times by 3. Now here we've had a divide by 3 and a times by 3, which cancel each other out. So that's going to make it just x. Whatever we do to the left-hand side, we must do to the right-hand side. So 3x times 3, that's 9x. Let's now simplify what we've got here. We will then take away the 7x onto the other side. And then divide by 2, so that's going to be minus 13.5 equals x. Pretty difficult answer there, pretty difficult question. Hopefully you've done well, hopefully you now understand how to do it. And let's move on to the final question, question 4. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Okay, so question A is a composite function question. Put 5 into the g function first. 5 add 3 gives you 8. And then put 8 into the f function next. That's going to give you 19 minus 16, which gives you 3. And solve f of x equals 3. Well, let's set up the f function first. 19 minus 2x equals 3. Then we will add the 2x onto the other side. Then we'll take away 3. And then we'll divide by 2 to give you 8. Lovely, there we are. That's the answer to part B. Let's move on to C and D. Pause the video and have a go at these two questions. Now, these two are a bit easy for this level in the game, this late in the day. So it's going to be g of f of 11, that's 22, so that'll make it minus 3. And then g of minus 3, that makes it 0. And solve g of x equals 5. So we're going to set up the g function and set it equal to 5. And then take away the 3 from both sides and you get 2. Oh, those two were easy, hopefully. Let's move on to the final couple of questions. Pause the video and have a go at these two. Okay, so in this first part, we're going to take f and put it into, 6, put it into f, 2, put it into g, and multiply the two answers together. So putting 6 into f, that'll make it 12. 19 minus 12 is 7. Multiplied by 2 put into here, that's 5. So that'll make the answer 35. Let's set up the the f function first. Add the g function and set it equal to 10. So that's going to make it minus x plus 21 equals 10. Add the x onto the other side and take away 10 and we get 11. So there we are, that's the answer to all of these questions from the worksheet then. Thank you very much for watching the video, thank you very much for working so hard and answering all the questions here. We're going to move on to composite functions next time, making two functions, one happen after the other. Lovely, thanks very much for watching.